Good evening, everybody. So I have a question for you. Are you running and are you hustling but still not seeing the results that you're looking for in your business? We're going to be talking about the biggest gap in your business and what you can do about it tonight. As you're hopping on, please let me know where it is you're coming in from so I can give you a shout out. I would love for this to be interactive as we move through. I'm just going to check to make sure here that I am in fact live on Facebook, which looks like I am. So awesome, awesome. So you guys, a lot of times I hear from students that we are just running, right? Running, hustling, doing everything that we possibly can. And it seems like there's always this cloud of overwhelm hanging over our heads because there's not enough time to do what we need to do. How many of you have ever felt that way? Let me know in the comments if you have ever felt like you're doing all the things, you're wanting to see results, you feel like you're hustling every single day, constantly on your phones, constantly on the computer, constantly doing reach outs, and maybe you're not connecting with anybody. How many of you feel like you're doing all these things and yet the results are still seemingly far in the distance? Let me know if you can relate to this, okay? Because it is where a lot of us come from, okay? We've all been there, I think, to some degree. I know that I have myself. But really, what started to change the game for me, if I'm switching from this state of feeling constantly like I have all these things that just need to be done, that heavy, heavy weight, really what started to shift for me was to understand what I was gapped out in my business. Okay. I had this huge, huge, huge list of things that I needed to get done, but it seemed like I never ever got all of it done. So I felt like I was, a failure. I wasn't doing things the way that I needed to. And it got me kind of down. And I don't know if you can relate to this, and let me know if you can, that when you're feeling that way, when you're feeling like I'm doing all the things and nothing's working, it's a little bit harder to stay motivated, isn't it? Can you agree with that? That if you're feeling this pressure of having to get this list done, but then you never seem to actually get the list done, okay, you start to get a little bit demotivated. So we wanted to talk about tonight the gap. Okay, the biggest gap in your business and what you can do about it. Because for a lot of us, we typically overestimate the amount of things that we can get done in a short amount of time. Okay, and we underestimate the things that we can do in a long time frame. And so, what does this mean for you right now in your business? There's a lot of transition that's happening. Okay, things and schedules are a little bit different. You may be homeschooling your kids. You may be working from home right now. Okay, you maybe don't have any income at the moment because, or maybe you're the sole provider at this point. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are going on, and this gap, it doesn't matter if it's now dealing with what we're dealing with now with the transition of the stay-at-home orders and things like that, or 4 months ago when it wasn't a thing. This gap is most likely something that you're experiencing in your business that is actually keeping you from the results that you're looking for. So I wanted to hop on tonight and address that because we don't want gaps in our business, right? We want things to work seamlessly. We want it to be fluid. We want to just hit the go button and start to see those results roll in. However, if we don't address this gap, if we don't take a look at it and identify it, then it actually can delay our results for a very long time, and it can allow that overwhelm to start piling up. Okay, so what is this gap? Okay, this gap is probably the number one drain on your resources and your resourcefulness that there is, because if not identified and addressed, it can kind of run rapid. Okay, it doesn't ever go away, it doesn't ever sleep, it's always there. And what we're talking about, you guys, is your time. I hear a lot all the time. I just don't have the time. I just can't find the time. I didn't have the time. Okay. How many of you have said those things? Let me know, right? Because we measure things based on having the time to do things. Okay. And again, that list of things that we always have to do that puts us into overwhelm because we're feeling like we have to get all these things done. Okay, that's directly related to this gap that I'm talking about. And the gap, you guys, is not time itself, but the identification of how much time you actually have to work your business. Okay, again, most of us feel like I don't have enough time. That statement is used over and over again, but really, if we really dig into it, it's more just a feeling of not having the time. And that comes from not actually identifying, okay, the time you actually have. So this begs the question then, if you're constantly worried about getting the things done, you're feeling overwhelmed because you don't have the time, what is it that you're actually focused in on? Are you focused in on getting specific tasks done, or are you constantly worried about the time factor? Okay, I had a great conversation with an amazing student. It's been probably about a month ago or so, and she was caught in this this trap that I wanted to discuss tonight of feeling overwhelmed, not having enough time to do anything. Okay. But everything that she was focusing on was just the time. It wasn't a specific task. It was just that feeling of not having time. And that feeling of not having time caused her to feel overwhelmed, and then she didn't take action. So how do we combat this? How do we get past this gap? How do we get past this luminous cloud of lack of time? Okay, this feeling of lack of time. Okay, first off, we have to get very specific. Identify what is it, first off, that I'm doing with my time. Not that you think you're doing with your time. Okay, not that it feels like you're doing with your time, but actually, what are you doing? Taking an inventory. What time are you actually waking up? Do you, in fact, have a schedule? First off, okay? And number two, what is that schedule? Okay, what do you do? What tasks are you doing? Are you waking up and cooking breakfast for the family? Are you helping your kids with homework? Are you making the 3-second commute to the other room for your makeshift office right now? Okay, what is your routine and what is your time actually spent doing? Is it Netflix binging once the kids go to sleep? Okay, whatever it is, first off, you have to identify where you're spending your time. And once you identify, okay, this is where I'm spending my time, maybe there's 2 or 3 hours of Netflix binging in there that isn't necessarily serving you right now, moving your business forward. So step 2 then is to identify where can you work in your business. Okay, do you have an hour in the morning? Do you have 30 minutes in the afternoon? Okay, do you have 45 minutes in the evening time? Okay, what is your time that you can actually commit to your business? And once you've actually figured this all out, number one, how you're currently spending your time right now, and decide, is how I'm spending my time actually effective in serving me, or is it not? Because I don't know if you caught our live last week, we talked about the value of your time. And if you knew that your time was worth $125 an hour, okay, and you're attempting to build a multiple 6- and 7-figure business, and you're feeling overwhelmed because you have all these things to do, and you take an inventory of how you're actually spending your time, and you find that there's actually, an hour or two a day that you're doing things that are not really moving you forward, at that point, you can actually make a determination, can't you? You can determine, okay, yes, I need to have this, or I need to do this because it's my downtime. Okay, that's great. Or maybe I need to replace this with something else. And then you can start to chunk down your tasks and make your list more reasonable. Okay, typically this hole that we're talking about is the feeling of not having enough time and an overloaded plate versus actually getting specific with what time you actually have, and then getting very specific on which specific tasks you can do. Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day, okay? Your 24 is the same as mine. We can't manage that time. However, we can manage our tasks that we need to do in that time frame. We can choose the tasks that are going to move us closer to our results in our business, or we can choose the things that are going to maybe have some personal gratification and relief at the moment, but not really ultimately get us closest to our ultimate goal. Okay, so really, it's really important to identify this because even if you only have 10 minutes, okay, only 10 minutes a day to work on your business, then you can start to determine, okay, in that 10 minutes, what is the most impactful thing that I can do? Is that sending reach outs? Okay, is that spending 10 minutes to learn how to develop your skill set so that you can use more digital marketing strategies? Is that 10 minutes going to be best served checking your metrics? Maybe you have advertising running, okay? Is it going to be doing a little bit more research into your target market so that you know how to effectively connect with them? Or is it spending some time in groups, okay? Depending on your strategy, that time, that 10 minutes might be different based on where you're at in your journey and your skill development, okay? But here's the thing that I want to leave you with. The biggest hole and the biggest gap that you may be feeling in your business right now is the fact that you have not maybe actually identified your time, okay? Typically, this is from an emotional perspective. But when you actually dig into it and you get very specific and you identify what time you actually have, you might just actually be surprised in what you have available to you, so that then you can more effectively make choices on the tasks you're going to do within that time frame so that you can get more traction in your business. All right, you guys, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me this evening. Appreciate you, everybody who's watching, the hearts and loves that came through. Definitely appreciate that. You guys, Tim and I wanted to do something special for you guys, but this is going to be user participation. Okay, so we are going to be hosting a webinar. It's a Q&A webinar surrounding Facebook, how to kind of set up and get started, and best practices. And it's going to be live Q&A session. So if that's something that you'd be interested in joining, let me know by putting Webby or webinar in the comments, and I'll go ahead and get you the information so that you can get our special link. Because again, this is something that we're going to be hosting for those people who really want to move their businesses forward. Okay, so if you want to hop on that webinar, have access to us live Q&A, go ahead and drop webinar or Webby in the comments and let me know, and I will reach out to you and I will get you access to the date, the time, and the very specific link for that. All right, you guys, appreciate you being on with me. Remember, protect your time, identify your time, then protect that time so that you can get the most traction in your business. Be curious, be bold, and then take action, because it is choice, not chance, that shapes your life. Take care, you guys. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.